Mind yourself. Hi, this is Aide Adum. You can call me the voice merchant. We're going to cover public speaking, presentation, we're going to cover voiceover, and what I want you to come away from this masterclass with, one thing, courage. And just get you to that point where you are confident, because that's who you are.
I know you can take it. I know you can make it. Doesn't matter what you're going through. You're strong enough to do what you got to do.
Regardless, if you're standing in front of people, you're standing in front of a camera, you're standing before a microphone, how you start and how you stop are always very important. In fact, they are almost more important than anything you do in between. If you want to mess up, please don't mess up at the beginning and at the end. Mess up somewhere in the middle, okay? And then redeem yourself at the end of it. And a lot of times, if you have a very strong start and you can capture people at the beginning, it'll stay with them. It'll stay with them. But better still, get them at the beginning, get them at the end. And let them leave saying, I can't really remember all the things that he said, but I do remember this, and this. So you must always start strong and you must always end strong. If you're doing a visual presentation, your posture and your poise, the way you carry yourself is important. If you're going to emphasize, for instance, I've been talking and my hands are moving, all right? Every time I want to emphasize, there's a particular gesture, that helps me to emphasize what I'm saying. Now, if I stood perfectly still in one place and just said everything that I said just now, it would still communicate, But in terms of emphasis, especially when it has to do with the space that we have here, I would be a little bit deficient in that. So your posture, stand up straight, look like you know what you are saying. Yeah? Your poise, don't be too self-conscious. You know what self-consciousness does? Self-consciousness, it breaks you down into little pieces. And each of those pieces are exposed. And this is what I mean. If you're self-conscious, suddenly you remember that I have big eyes. While you're talking to people, you become conscious. I've been told I have big eyes. So while you're talking, suddenly you're trying to make sure that these eyes don't distract people. And while you're doing that, you now remember that I have thick lips. As if we all don't have thick lips. I have thick lips. And it breaks you into little pieces. I hope as I'm talking now, my mouth is not dry. And so you're breaking yourself into little pieces. Did I clean my nose? I hope it's fine. I hope my buttons are in. And you're distracted from what you're saying. And the deeper you get into it, the more you begin to fall apart right where you are. You become nervous, and like we said before, your body gets to that place where it's like, I don't want to be here. We're making a fool of ourselves. We need to leave. All right? So don't be too self-conscious. Use slides and props. Now, because of the setting of what we have here, and I'll do a video where we do that properly. Because of the setting that we have here and how we set up, there are certain things, details that I've not gone into, but slides and props are important, all right? They help to keep, the attention of just you as you speak and on the topic that is being discussed. So while I'm talking, this keeps you also centered. You're looking at what I'm saying. You're relating what I'm saying to what you're seeing on the slide, and it keeps you in check. So the slide is good for us, good for you, and good for me. So like I talked about props. I gave you an example of your mind as a tool and the fact that you can memorize numbers on a recharge card, all right? So if I had a recharge card, that would be a prop, okay, to help you better understand. And of course, you can use whiteboards, you can use chalkboards, you can use all sorts of boards to help you along. And my last point there is, when the going gets good, stay focused. And what that means is this: once you begin to speak and you get into that flow, and it begins to flow, and the people are getting it, and you are giving it, and they are taking it. The tendency, and I told you I have that tendency to get into those rabbit holes. The tendency is for you just to go with the flow. I'll give you an example. So if while I talk, I say something that makes you laugh, because we are enjoying the laugh, I'll say something else that will make you laugh some more. And before long, we turn this thing into a comedy show. Why? Because I'm just going with the flow. They're enjoying the jokes and I'm flowing along with it. No. When you get into that, and it's interesting, when you stand before an audience, there is an exchange that goes on between you and the audience. There's an energy that when you give it out and the audience gives it back to you, it energizes you. And you give it to them, it energizes them, and they give it back to you. So there's that constant flow between you and the audience. And once you get into that flow, you must learn to manage it. You must learn to manage it. Stay on point. That's why we have the slides. Keep us on track and keep us going. Public speaking, presentation, usually you're either before an electronic audience or a physical audience, all right? And we've touched, maybe just glossed over, for instance, things like your posture, your poise, how you carry yourself when you're in front of a camera. A lot of stuff done before the camera. Even if you don't know what to do, usually your director or whoever is handling you will tell you, stand here, don't move too much, don't do this too much, because they have a picture they are looking at. But when you stand before an audience, be it a small group like we have here, or an audience of one, or a large stadium of people, let me give you just a few tips on certain things that you can do that can help you out, okay? An audience of one. I learned this some time back. And what happened was that I learned it a little bit more by experience, and then I read about it somewhere. I can't remember exactly where I read about it. And I was like, okay, so this does actually work. Now, there is a tendency, and I don't know if you will notice it, but there is a tendency that when you sit and talk, all right, let me take it from here. When you walk, if you notice friends, close friends, you will usually notice that they dress alike. Not consciously. Not consciously. So if you see a young boy in his skinny jeans and his palm sandals and his hoodie, if you meet his friend, he will likely be in skinny jeans, palm sandals, and a hoodie. All right? And it follows with how you carry yourself. So when you're talking to someone one-on-one, if you walk in and you sit down and you're talking with someone and the person is uptight and sitting up straight, it's very likely that you may not have the liberty to just want to stretch out and put your hand across the chair. Yeah? Yes. Conversely, if you walk in and the person is stretched out on the chair, you likely won't come and sit and be so uptight. You feel a little relaxed. So in a sense, you kind of mimic the person's body posture. Now, if you take it a little further, this actually works. If you meet someone who is a total stranger, and this works like, I don't know, some kind of magic. If you meet someone who is a total stranger and you're having a conversation, you're sitting next to them, and you just pay, you don't need to do it, so obviously, but then take a moment, relax, cross your legs. Person puts their leg down, and relaxes a little. After a few moments, put your leg down, relax a little. What it does is that there's a kind of connection between, you know, what you are doing and how it flows with that person's body and his disposition. And he'll kind of begin to relax. Yeah? And he won't notice, I mean, unless he watches this. But he won't notice that what you are doing is you're just mimicking his body movement. But it'll help him to relax. Rather than him sitting the way he's sitting and you just sit there with your hands folded, you know, and you completely cut yourself off from the other person. Now, small groups, like this kind of group. In every small group, you will notice there are ringleaders. Trust me, whether they are vocal or they are quiet. There are people who are ringleaders. And they can be ringleaders for various reasons. Maybe, for instance, we have a group here that came in and there's someone that led them in. Yeah? So you have a boss. And that's the ringleader. There are people who, just by reason of their clout as individuals, they walk into a room and people defer to them. That could be your ringleader. You need to identify the ringleaders in the group and subtly play the ringleaders. Because usually the mood of the group is captured by the ringleader. So if you play to the ringleader will help you to dissipate that all through the group. And if you can't identify a ringleader immediately, sometimes you can create one. If I keep picking on you and making examples and picking on you, the tendency is that there will be difference in your direction. All right? But the basic idea is when you're in a small group, understand that there are people that help you set the temperature, so to speak, of the room. Okay? All right, and finally, if you are dealing with a large crowd. Now, with a large crowd, because you don't have one-on-one contact with a large crowd, so if you're dealing with an individual, you know, there's eye contact, you need to listen, you need to pay attention. The same thing in a group, you know, you need to look at some people, stay connected. But with a large crowd, you don't have the luxury of perhaps being able to see them close. And that's why they have the big screens to project your image. What happens in a large crowd is crowd mentality, mob mentality. So from the few words you begin to say, you begin to feel that energy that you feel between you and the crowd. That's what you need to ride on, and you need to be sensitive to it. Certain times the crowd, maybe you could say something that makes everybody just emotional. You could say something that makes everybody just happy. And you can feel it in the energy. That's what you need to pay attention to, not to individuals. Now, proximity is good and it's preferred if it is possible. But where it's not possible, where you have a crowd, where you can't really focus on anybody, you know, just be aware of that mob mood and flow along with that mob mood.
In a world where you click subscribe, go on, click the button,